God put me together out of squid and electricity so I could talk to you for a few hours. That's ink. I feel really dizzy and sick. We don't have a lot of time. I'm gonna melt back into the ocean. So you gotta listen to me, okay? I don't know how much time we have.
What was I talking about?
You were talking about your dream?
You were talking about your dream?
Making the movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, making a movie is easy. You can do it in a day.
Making a movie's the easy part. It's watching them that's the hard part.
You could make a 24-hour... You could make... What's like a feature-length film? What qualifies as a feature-length film? 120 minutes?
That would be 2 hours.
Or
90
80 minutes. 80 minutes.
If you're trying to clear it with me, it's 41 minutes.
41 minutes. That's shorter than an episode of Prestige TV.
Yeah, those are all features.
Okay. I love the Mad Men film series. There's over 100 films in this series.
Yeah, incredible. Incredible work.
You could make over 24 feature films in one day without leaving the comfort of your home.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry.
I'm so fucking shell shocked. I can't even think right now, dude. This is going to be so bad.
You're shell shocked?
Huge shit.
No, I don't. I had such a hard day at work, and it's hot in my apartment, and my fucking air conditioner is broken, and like
I found out my dentist died today.
Wow.
Yeah. No,
How'd
he
you
was
find
just
out?
made of hard jelly.
I mean, but I guess you've had a hard day.
He was just made of hard jelly.
He was returning to.
I would be
I
so
felt
mad
him.
if I found out my dentist was just made of hard jelly this whole time.
Of squid and electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to go get my teeth cleaned today, and there was a plaque memorializing him. Ash is walking out. He can't handle this.
Wait, is that really true though? Was there a
That Ash
you're
walked
making
out.
a plaque
or-
joke? No. Is that just a
What?
plaque joke or did this really happen?
No, he actually did die. He is dead. Ash
Which is not
taking
funny.
it
I'm
pretty
sorry.
hard.
R.I.P.
I mean,
R.I.P.
Do that. Just let me fucking.
the way he
think
died,
for a
he
second.
died. He died of a broken tooth. Is the sad? It's pretty good.
All right, let's start talking about this. I'm ready.
Surfer.
We are talking about
can't-
Surfer. Oh, here's the thing though. So
No,
I've
we're
been going
not.
through I've been going through Surf Reality Movie of the Month Club movies, and they're all like between 45 minutes and an hour. And
Wow.
Surf Reality Movie of the Month Club?
yes, Surf
Oh.
Reality Movie of the Month Club.
Every
that's cool.
episode, you have some new thing that you say, and you say it so matter of factly
Yeah.
that I'm like, am I supposed to be familiar with the Surf Reality Movie of the Month?
I know
Club?
my feed is so specific. I'm like, didn't you hear about this repeatedly for a month? Didn't people DM you about this? So this was in the 90s, and they did all these shot on video movies, this group of friends, and they shot every movie in one day.
Oh,
Yeah. And they're very creative and partially improv, and overall decently paced. And I do think, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the movie we covered for today could have also been done in a day, and also have been 45 minutes. Maybe
instead,
that's a
I
hot
believe
take.
it took
Instead-
about 10 years to make this film, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, instead, it took 10 years, and it was one of the greatest movies of all time, certainly that we've ever watched for this episode.
Yes.
Pretty incredible stuff.
Really
Did we see
incredible.
the premiere of this movie?
Yes, we did. We
Wow. I felt watching this again, I felt like I was a part of history.
I know. We got a tip from somebody in the Los Angeles film community who we were connected with. I guess my remembrance of it is that this person was like looking at just like film schedules and saw that this was scheduled at the Lamley, like at the Lamley or however you say that theater, the one where you can just buy a screening of your movie.
Specifically the one in Beverly Hills. So this was a big four-waller for some very eccentric rich person.
So it seemed, and a bunch of us showed up. It became like an event that like a lot of us decided to go to, seemingly to the surprise of people involved in the film. But then again, if you're someone who's like four-walling your film, you do kind of hope like people are going to just see the listing and want to show up. I mean, that's what can happen, right?
Did either of you come to when we saw The Fanatic? And
yes,
our friend Nate, friend of the podcast, checked like whatever returns or whatever, because he worked for that distribution company, and he found out that we accounted for like 25% of the gross income.
Yes, it was like a measurable percentage.
Yeah,
it was a measurable percentage. That was just the screening that we attended, which was like half us. But I remember Surfer. We're gonna formally intro the show and like talk about these players a little bit more in just a moment. But I remember like Douglas Burke was there and like his editor was there, and they were like talking before the movie, and like the editor was like throwing the movie out.
It was after
like after we'd seen the film. There was like a Q&A. There was a Q&A, right?
Because Douglas did not really understand why people. To me, he just registered like the laughter as like a reaction.
Yeah.
And he was happy that people were like engaged with the film.
As he should have been.
And I think if my read on it was the editor kind of panicked when they started asking about like creative choices and things.
Yeah.
And I remember he like stood up and kind of like was interrupting and sort of like went up to sort of defend himself because he was talking about how like he gave him like one take of each scene and was like telling him to do all this stuff, and there was like no audio. Right. There was like all these kinds of like the green screen footage was just like not lit properly.
Right.
He just said it was a very weird moment that I will never forget, but it was also just like just play it cool, man.
Just play it cool.
No one knew you were the editor.
The movie.
No one knew you were the editor until you stood up and said, "I am the editor."
And also,
of this
we
film.
like the movie. And second of all, I remember him saying, like, the film has its problems.
Yeah,
like, I remember him like saying that, like at the premiere, where it's like people showed up. People showed up,
having a blast. This is one of the best movies I've ever seen.
It was amazing. This movie is awesome, but it's just like it's very funny to watch like the relationship between the people who made a film and their like relationship like deteriorate in real time, like in front of a screening. Wasn't there like a fight at the movie Something?
That
was one that just Scott and I went to. Who told me that there was like a fight at a screening of that movie? I can't remember.
Between people who worked on the film? Or?
Yeah. That's my... I don't know. Maybe it was a different screening. I'm mixing it all up.
I remember like Tickled, they had the guy showed up.
David
D'Amato showed up, and then he died. He quote unquote
Tickler
died
showed up?
like a week later.
The Tickler showed up.
He did.
Or his people at least, like served the filmmakers a subpoena at the like...
I was actually the guy. There's like a photo of it.
Holy shit.
And he was like yelling at them or something. And then he mysteriously died like a week later.
Right.
Which I think he just faked his death.
Fantastic.
That was a great doc. I should watch that again. Speaking of editing, that's like one of the best paced docs I've ever seen.
That's fantastic.
Until you saw Surfer. Teen Confronts Fear.
Let's intro the show and tell the folks listening about one of our favorite contemporary DIY movies of all time.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Boys Bible Study. Hey, surf's up, boys.
Yeah.
It's
Boys Bible Study, white men confront movies.
Boys Bible Study. Toes confront hanging 10 off the side of your board in this fantastic July heat. It's hot out there.
Yeah.
Folks. Okay. And we thought we'd cool down cool down with a little beachside trip all the way to the shores of Bali.
I feel like you're like mentally trying to cool yourself down because your air conditioner's not
My
working.
air conditioner's broken, and I had such a busy day at work, and I want to die. Yes, I'm trying to envision myself on the beach of my
Yes.
placid.
Imagine you're
destiny.
trying to enjoy the beach. You have a chair. You're gonna fish. You're feeling the breeze. Your air conditioning's broke
Yes.
at home. The breeze is nice. The spray of the ocean is nice. You're cooling down a bit.
I'm closing my eyes. This is a nice little guided meditation.
Yeah.
I can practically feel it.
And then you hear a splashing sound, and you're like, "Oh, is that a fish?" And then lo and behold, your physics professor flops up onto the sand.
Yes. This is the experience you get when watching Surfing Teen Confronts Fear, which is made by Douglas Burke, who is someone I think we should introduce. He's a new player. You may not have heard of him. I've seen a little coverage of Surfer online. I saw it on like Reddit. I was searching to see if anyone else had looked at this, and I noticed that there was like a post on like r/bad movies.
Really?
Where people were looking for it, but not much. So I'm gonna guess that most of our listeners have not seen or have not heard of this film. But we should intro it, and we should talk about Douglas Burke, because a very interesting guy. Hope he makes another film, because this guy is one to watch.
I'm looking at his ratemyprofessors.com.
Yes,
Oh,
Scott
yes.
sent us his Rate My Professor, because
I read
he is
all of them.
It has tanked since we last read it, I feel like. But all these are from like several years ago, so maybe it's...
I mean, I
was
wonder,
bad
like,
before.
did he teach during COVID? Like, did he still teach at the time? But yeah, he's a physics professor, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's at
USC.
USC. He's
University
a
of
physics professor.
Spoiled Children.
But the thing about him is that we learned this from observing his Q&A. He is and from watching this movie, he is a very spiritual, metaphysical guy for whom I can only assume physics is like a psychedelic and winding like discipline.
Yeah.
I cannot really imagine how he would teach physics, because he just is going places.
People are like, yeah, it's kind of all over the charts here, but overall, I mean, it says 17% would take the class again. I mean, it's an introductory physics, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, most people aren't going to like rate their. Well, it's like rating anything. Like, most people don't actually rate their professor unless they had like a pretty bad time.
Yeah.
But I would hypothesize that Douglas is a pretty interesting class to take, because I remember in his Q&A, like, people were asking him about stuff, and he was like, yeah, like I was off I might not be quoting this correctly. I'm just referring my memory of like 7 years ago. But he was like, I was like surfing off the coast of New Zealand, and there was like huge plumes of lightning, and like I don't remember what happened to me, and like blah blah blah. Like, he's had psychedelic experiences in his life.
If I remember, I remember him at the Q&A saying that he was, I think his parents were in the Navy or something, and he was raised partially in like Southeast Asia, which is where he sort of got like this twinge of Eastern philosophy with his worldview.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm making that up, or I mean, this was like
It makes sense.
6 years ago that we saw this.
Yeah, we're consulting our own like primary source memories from a very strange and quick and fun event that we all went to like 6 or 7 years ago. So we can't be expected to report it like with 100% accuracy. But the fact is, like, this Surfer Teen Confronts Fear, this is a spiritual movie, and a movie that talks about the Bible at length. Of all the movies that we love that we've stretched our format to accommodate for, this one is actually not that big of a stretch. Like, Mr. Burke is very spiritual.
Yeah.
And he made this insane DIY film
Starring his son.
Starring his son.
It's a wonderful way to celebrate Father's Day in July, because it is about
that's right.
a father returning for his son and a son returning to his father.
You're so right, Scott. Last week we did Mother's Day in July. Now, not only are we, in kicking back in the summer heat, we are also celebrating Father's Day in July by covering this brilliant movie about a father and son working together. It's pretty remarkable.
Fathers in heat. Yeah, this was a family affair, filmed over the course of his child's life.
Yes,
between the ages of seeming like 6 or 7 to 16, 15,
Sounds right.
16. So about a decade of his kid's life, and kind of hard to tell if he enjoyed being in the movie or not.
I actually wrote down the moment when it first cuts back to. I'm sorry, is Sage his real name or just his movie name?
Sage is his real middle name. His first name is Julian.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's
I
so
knew I
sick.
liked this guy.
I
liked this guy.
Well, I'll call him Sage for the purposes of this film, but like when it cuts to the first time back in time to when they were first filming the movie, when Sage was like 6 or 7, it's funny how much more he's clearly enjoying it when he's like 7 years old than when he's like 15 or 16.
Yeah.
I mean, Sage still gives some pretty like emotional performances, but there do appear to me to be a couple scenes where Sage is pretty checked out.
Yes.
In the present day when he is filming the movie.
Yeah, I wrote down at some point, his son is really putting up with this.
Yeah, I mean, imagine like your dad has spent most of your life filming you surfing, and you thought it was just out of his love for watching you like try really hard at something and succeed, and then you find out that he is actually planning a decades-long film project that's about him being a former military assassin. And you're the star of it because he can't figure out how to film the rest of it.
Who's also, a reincarnated like sea spirit and former military assassin. Yeah, if I remember the Q&A correctly, I feel like he framed it like the movie came about because he wanted a creative framing for the surf footage.
Yes.
But maybe that was him kind of like humbly compensating, because the surf footage is, the final like 20, 25 minutes of the film.
Oh.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
I don't know about that. It's not a discipline I know very much about,
I get the impression that he had an idea for a film when that flashback scene where he gets visited by the spirit of his child in a dream.
Yes.
And then just sat on that for a decade and then was like, oh, I know what this movie will be about.
Yes.
And tried to retroactively fit that into, it's truly,
it's remarkable.
It's the thought process that had to go into this film is otherworldly.
It really is.
What did I say about what's his name? Father, dad,
Kenya
Cagle. Something about how he just like sees the world differently than us.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. I can't exactly remember how you phrased it, but he just like sees things sort of in advance. I remember you saying.
Yeah.
He's got a beautiful mind. I mean, this is something we say a lot about our like favorite directors, but like in order to like really make the DIY film that will get, us talking here at Boys Bible Study and like many other friends in our film community, in order to make that DIY film, you kind of have to have like a beautiful mind.
Yes.
You need to be able to think of time in a sort of non-linear way. And also just sort of like be creative enough to be like, okay, I have this old footage from 10 years ago. I'm going to make it be a dream.
Yeah.
Or like there's a beached whale today. I'm going to film a scene of the movie about the beached whale.
That was so funny. The best part of this movie being filmed so sporadically over a decade was that Douglas Burke's acting methods changed throughout the years.
Yeah.
Like during the whale scene, he's like trying for some sort of like Orson Welles, like Shakespearean, like weird overwrought delivery.
Orca Welles.
It's all about fear. Fear is a signal of a part of you inside that's frightened. And if you hold it in the light, every bit of fear turns into faith. And then from faith, incredible joy and laughter. So every time you see a wave, boy, that's your whale, boy. You can say to yourself, there's my whale.
And then when he's on the beach, he's sort of like, feels more like maybe natural, I would say. But then in the military hospital, he has just gone full method.
He's off his damn rocker in that scene.
He's going
incredible.
for the Oscar.
It's really incredible.
I found myself this time watching it, you know, that when he is in the hospital in the doctor's lair or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's that woman right before him, the patient right before him.
Yes. So good.
I found her this is the most concerned I've been about her for her. I really felt like I should find out what happened. Like Douglas owes that to us.
Yes, it's remarkable. He is able to convey such feeling in a film. What other like introductory stuff like before we really get into the film? Yeah, we've talked about like his spiritual bent, the fact that he's a physics professor. We met the guy who played Banks.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were there. There was another screening of Surfer that we all went to again. We fucking followed this movie around.
I went to the Gardena one.
Yes. Okay. So you were there too.
Yeah. He was at the Gardena one.
Because
He was
I
at the
remember
Gardena
him
one.
being like so familiar, and I was like, I feel like I've seen this guy elsewhere. Like there was something about seeing him again this time where I was like, I feel like I've seen him in person.
Yeah. No, we did.
That's so funny.
We saw, he was at Gardena. A bunch of us went. We saw this movie again in Gardena. This is what we do with our lives. We fucking find Surfer Dean Confronts Fear and we like follow it around Southern California like we're fucking like Fish fans, you know. And
it's still screening, by the way, around the world.
Oh my god!
In festival, it's screened at like a festival in like Luxembourg in April of this year.
He had a black and white 35mm print made of it.
No.
Yes.
Really?
That's probably how it's screening. Yeah.
Oh my god!
Wow.
He's so cool.
Because he said that fairly early on that he wanted to do that, or like the person who programmed the screening at Gardena told me that. He was like, yeah, apparently he has this dream of having like a black and white 35mm print too. And I was like, well, that's
so
why
crazy.
Like Mad
that's
Max.
not going to happen. And it happened.
Why?
He did it.
Because he won't. I mean, I want him to make another film so bad, but there's something incredible about how he will not give up on this film.
Yeah.
I mean, he shouldn't. Like there is a huge audience for this film.
Like I noticed that it's like screening at like museums and stuff. I don't know how that's happening. If it's like a film festival, wherever, because you can find film festivals screen anything.
Yeah.
But I was scrolling through because I was trying to remember where we saw it the first time, and I was noticing there was like a lot of like art house, like not art house screens, but like art places, like art centers and museums and stuff that he was screening it at.
Wild.
I don't know if he really. I feel like that's more of a programmer. I feel like maybe he was sought out versus.
I mean,
he is seeking out museums to show his film.
I just went to the Arrow last night to watch Matthew Barney's Cremaster 3, and I feel like that and Surfer Teen Confronts Fear like do sort of occupy like a half video art, half film space.
Yeah.
You know, so there might be something there. I mean, if I lived in Berlin and, you know, I had sort of a GHB habit and, you know, I was just having anonymous sex with, you know, other gay guys in Berlin 3 out of the 7 days of the week, I would probably have a small art space where I programmed Surfer.
Yeah.
Confronts Fear. Sorry,
That's a fair point.
kind of got lost in thought there for a moment, but I understand. I hope he achieved his dream of making the 35 millimeter print.
And in the other direction, I'm kind of getting lost in thought now about if Matthew Barney. One of the things with Matthew Barney is his production design is immaculate. So like, imagine if he had like regular, like what we usually watch DIY level production design, but his ideas and the script was the same.
Right. Oh God, that'd be wonderful. I would love to see that.
Wait, wouldn't you put him in the same camp as this then?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, what if Matthew Barney was just like a weird professor who's like, yeah, I made a 3-hour long film about guys playing with a maypole and I'll put my son in it.
Yeah.
I'd be like, cool. We'll talk about it on our podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, the world turned in the way that it did, and you know, we got Surfer Teen Confronts Fear. But let's talk about this film. I just want to start off by saying this film, it starts out with a little bit of an intro, you know, where we meet Sage for the first time. Then a scene begins, and I looked at the timestamp when this scene ends. And that timestamp, if I'm not mistaken, was 49:53. The first or basically second scene of the movie lasts for 45 plus minutes.
I'm not going to lie. I don't remember how it felt in theaters. I remember this movie felt very long in theaters. I was pretty surprised to see it was only like an hour 45.
Well, it has a pacing problem because go on, Scott.
It's the pace starting with a 45-minute opening scene and then ending with like this like indefinite montage that just kind of like, well, credits now.
Yeah.
Yes,
really throws off any feeling of like time and space. Because I remember watching it for the first time in the theater at the end there and being like, how long has this been going on for? Like it felt as long as the opening scene.
Yeah, the montage definitely is where I was like, you know, looking at my watch.
Yeah.
But like watching it this time, that opening scene did not feel like 45 minutes.
No. It flies by.
It flies by, and maybe it's like partially because I was like kind of remembering what happens, and I know that like they're gonna see the whale. He's gonna spit up the ink.
Whale boy.
Like there's gonna be the part where he's like screaming in agony.
Yeah.
Throwing up squidding.
But it flew by. I was surprised to like see that the movie was like a third, almost halfway over by the time the scene is done.
Yes. Yeah, I believe it's 49 minutes when that scene finishes. And no, it's a big pacing movie. If you get the chance to watch this in theaters, once Sage starts surfing at the end at about the hour 15 or hour 20 mark, you can just like go out and take a break for a while.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I remember doing that in Gardena because we had like just seen it the first time.
Yeah.
Like 2 weeks previously. So as soon as he started surfing, I was like, I'm going to go and just like sit in the lobby and send some texts or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I came back.
You want to come back for the credits though,
Yes.
because that is the big payoff.
The credits are fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. But I mean, let's talk about the opening scene. So the opening scene, which again is half the movie,
Yes.
not only is by far the most entertaining part. I don't want to say that. It is definitely the most entertaining part of the movie. It also cements the spiritual focus of the movie. It like really solidly lays out as much as possible Douglas Burke's like spiritual scope with this film, and makes for very interesting study.
So his character washes up ashore. He's pulled out of the ocean by his son. Yeah. He's very quickly revealed that he is a spiritual creation, a physical manifestation of the spirit of Sage's father, who is put together from squid parts and electricity to in the shape of his father, who has come back to give him a message about conquering his fear so that his spirit may be at ease.
Wow.
And he constantly refers to like making a deal with God and angels or some sort of spiritual being in order to come back and relay this message, because he's being tormented watching his son not pursue his surfing hobby.
Yes, and the subtitle of this film, Teen Confronts Fear, refers to it's like the very opening narration of the movie. Sage reveals that he basically had possibly like a near-death experience while surfing, and ever since he washed, when you surf, you bail off your board and wash up to shore. That happens to you a lot, but something in this movie, something about one particular occasion caused him to just be so paralyzed with fear that he wasn't able to go do it again. Hence, sending of his father, played by Douglas Burke, back to Earth. The scene where he fucking rolls out of the ocean is so funny.
He's great to watch.
He's so good to watch.
The physicality in his performance, which we'll get to. Just when you think this movie can't get any more fucking insane, he gives in he puts in a performance that will stick with you for the rest of your life. But him rolling in and out of the ocean is like magnificent. He just goes completely limp and makes his son like pull him with all of his strength out of the ocean.
Yeah. I have. And this scene, the other thing, and the reason it's so engaging is because over about 45 minutes, the tone, the gravitas of it, or whatever you want to call it, just escalates slowly. It starts out, their pace is just like, I wrote down so many lines because they're like half improvising them. They're all so funny. Douglas goes, "Actually, I'm here to help you. I'm here to see you." And Sage goes, "What?"
Also, this entire 45-minute scene is ADR'd. So, and it's seemingly one take. So they had to do this very uncanny, like, studio recording. I don't know what the studio looked like, but it was a separate recording of their dialogue, matching what their mouths were doing. But it's funny because there's so many bad line readings and mistakes. But they clearly didn't get a second take because they had to match exactly how they were saying, like fucking up these lines every time. There's a part where he like mispronounces a word and then like starts the line over immediately. And they just had to
the ADR,
leave that in it. Yeah,
I didn't think about that, but you're so right.
And they're very long one take things. So it's not like, I mean, I can see why the editor, being a fucking weirdo, he's friends with this guy and is editing Surfer Teen Confronts Fear. Like, I can see why he wanted to explain some of the shoddiness, quote unquote shoddiness in the filmmaking.
Yeah.
But like they had to transcribe it. Like somebody, like how did they do that? It's remarkable.
I guess just watching it and watching it over and copying what you said.
Yeah, I think they had audio. I think it's probably super blown out and windy because they're shooting it on the beach and they don't know what they're doing.
There is a scene where it's like a close up and they switch to clearly the onboard mic on the camera and you can hear the waves crashing are just like deafening.
Yeah, they're like underneath they're next to a bunch of rocks. They're like right by the ocean.
Yeah.
And things, as the scene goes on, things are revealed about the cosmology of this universe. And here's an example. So Douglas asserts that Sage's life was saved by a sea lion when he was in this sort of psychedelic, like near-death experience. And it's unclear if this is like a literal sea lion or like a spiritual one. He says the sea lion saved your life. The sea lion came out of its body. The spirit of the sea lion, it went into your body. So we can like transfer energies between beings.
I've been playing so much Elden Ring that like the like very cryptic nature of this like world building in this movie, I was like so into it this time. I was kind of like, this is pretty fucking cool.
It's really compelling.
Like a guy came back and he's like made of literally what he says is squid and electricity. Yeah. And he's got some weird hard jelly exterior and he's going to like rapidly decompose in front of his son if he doesn't roll him back into the ocean.
And I love that type of writing in movies. When you're like,
yes,
feel me. I feel how I feel different. It's like hard jelly. Just like saying that while somebody's grasping at your fingers with disgust.
This is just like a hard jelly. Feel it. Feel it. Feels different, right? Hard. Like a hard jelly.
Awesome.
And it's so awesome. And he keeps going, feel it, boy. It's just hard jelly. It's hard jelly.
It's hard jelly, boy. Feel your dad, boy. I'm hard jelly.
It's like Born Slippy. It's hard jelly, boy, and the sea lion, boy.
It's a whale, boy. Also, the fact that they can enter and exit dreams.
Yes.
Through just sheer willpower was pretty incredible.
It's so beautiful. And then coming up next, I'm reading lines from my notes. This is where he starts to reveal some of the biblical aspects of the Surfer cosmology. He says, in the beginning, Adam in the Garden of Eden, he got scared. You know what scared him? You don't, but I'm going to tell you. Don't eat from the tree, you'll become like God. Okay, I'm going to paraphrase now, but basically, Adam in the Garden of Eden became scared because the serpent told him that if you ate from the tree of life, you would become like God. And at that point, Adam realized he wasn't already like God. But Douglas reveals, and this is like Douglas's like theology, he says that was a lie. Adam and Eve were already like God. In his view, the purpose of the serpent in the garden was to convince man that they were not God.
Yeah.
And that rift has like retained ever since the Garden of Eden.
In the very beginning, the first man, Adam, in the Garden of Eden, he got scared. You know what scared him? You don't know, but I'm going to tell you. The devil came up to him and said, "Hey, God told you to not eat from that tree." The reason God told you not to eat from the tree, Adam, is because if you eat from the tree, you'll become like God. At that moment, Adam believed that he wasn't like God. As soon as he believed that, he had to run like a frightened rabbit and try and eat from the tree so that he would become like God. But the whole thing was a lie. He already was like God.
I thought that was deep as fuck.
Totally.
I was like, bro.
It's really
that's
smart.
Some real shit.
Like, why
so
would we
smart.
be taking the serpent's word for stuff in the first place? Like, even about that tree. Like, we're not supposed to listen to him for everything else, but for that, you're like, well, yeah, that though. The first thing he says.
I know.
The great deceiver.
The great deceiver himself. And there's other like relationships with God and Satan. Like I'm skipping around, but at one point he reveals this is skipping toward I don't want to skip all the way toward the end, but he does say that he is a spirit just like Satan, bound in the earth, wandering, stuck. This is how Douglas is like in his sort of like squid form. he's like Satan. He's like a fallen angel. He's like a spirit that is bound to earth, like cast away by God, which is very interesting.
Cast away.
Yeah.
You know what this movie reminded me a lot of? I'm just now remembering this.
Other than Elden Ring?
Yeah, is the films of I'm gonna fuck this up so bad. The guy who did Uncle Boone Me, who can recall his past lives.
Yeah, I can't say his name either. Don't worry.
Apichatpong Werisol?
Yeah.
Thank God we got a projectionist in this.
Yeah.
this chat.
It reminded me of his films because they're very like low budget, but like grand ideas, especially Memoria.
Haven't seen it.
That one, or Memoria, I think is how it's pronounced. But that one has like a scene where Tilda Swinton just goes to some guy's house and he's just like, "Oh yeah, I'm like a god, or like I'm like an alien spirit who's like lived on this earth for like thousands of years, and I've been here before like life existed and all this stuff." And he's just like telling her this stuff, and you're actually like supposed to just believe it. That's what this scene felt like.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's a good way to tell a story because you can just have a man in a wetsuit on the beach.
Yeah,
and he's just like, I'm like Satan bound to this earth. And
Yeah.
like, okay.
In Memoria, he's like wearing like a Tommy Bahama shirt, just like saying this while he's like preparing dinner or something.
That's cool.
That's another guy too with Apichatpong, like his stuff. He has like really heady ideas about spirituality and stuff too. But again, like his production is really like sharp, and it feels like everything that he does is intentional in like a high art way. And that's just part of the magic here with the just going for it anyway when you don't have the same production means.
Yes. And to that, the scene progresses. He puts Sage's hands on the rock and he says, the rock will start to vibrate and show you what happened in the spirit world. And starts to go on this monologue about how like your identity is like trapped at the bottom of the ocean, which is like filled with toxic acid, but like your identity existed in the realm. He's kind of talking about this like primordial soup, like this, like, you know, like the Big Bang, like all energy was contained within a Big Bang. And like your identity at one point was contained like in this spiritual mass. But still that spark of you was there. Which is very interesting.
Another movie this had me thinking about, because my daughter keeps watching it lately, is Moana, which came out 2 years before this movie.
Oh, wow. I never saw that one. Is it good?
Yeah, it is good actually. But it has some similar elements about conquering your fear at sea and in the ocean.
Yeah, Moana, that's about like, is it about like Samoan culture?
Yeah, it's kind of like Pan-Polynesian in general, like covers a large swath.
Which again, I think he's quite, Douglas Burke, I mean, is quite inspired by specifically. Like, it's not just like, it's not necessarily Eastern religion in the sense of like Buddhism or Hinduism. It's like Polynesian, like as you said, like Pacific Islands or like Pan-Polynesian stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But he kind of just made it up.
Yes.
He took everything he liked from each of like the religions that he's like read a Wikipedia article about and then put them all together to create like his, and this is him basically like expounding on his like almost Scientology-esque like way to conquer your emotions through like coming up with some weird like physiology, cosmology sort of way describers of your like emotions and reactions to your like body's chemical reactions to like anxiety and stress.
Yes. Yeah, because he goes on this thing because, you know, to him, like surfing is very spiritual, which I think it is for like not every surfer, but for like, you know, a decent amount of people. They feel just very connected, you know, with the ocean and, you know, with just them alone in the ocean. And he goes on this like tangent later where he's explaining to Sage about his like body. He says, when you do detailed movements, the spirit of God paints awareness into your nervous system.
Movement. Movement is so important. When you move, when you do detailed movement, the Spirit of God paints awareness into your nervous system. And that is the energy that helps you move out of fear. So, what I want you to do now is remember all the times that you were surfing and you did maneuvers. Try and absorb the energy of the movement. It's still in there, and let it gut the fear out of your belly. Just watch and relive the memory of all the movements you did as you surfed when you were young. Try to feel the fact that as you did all those detailed movements, the Spirit of God was painting His energy into your nerves. And let your body just absorb that. Otherwise, there's so many times that we do all these movements and we don't absorb essence from the movement. And we don't change the movement because it doesn't dig into the nerves and change us. So that's what I want you to do now. Just observe and absorb the essence that you were touched by God when you moved. And that energy is just going to push the fear out of you, the fear that locks you up. Feel.
So surfing, or like, I mean, surfing is the example, but I guess you could also think like dancing or just athletics in general. Doing that is like God honoring. It's like using your physical form to honor God in a way that, like, there's no real through line there, but just the individual things he's saying sound very interesting.
Yeah. Is that part of the whole thing is part of the rant, but like the part of the rant where he's talking about like, in your body is blood and the ocean is blood, and you conquer your fear through the ocean because the ocean is you.
You see, in your body is blood. In the ocean is water. The blood and the water are the same thing. It's both spirit. So the ocean is actually the key. It's the key to conquering fear. Your relationship with the ocean. You were never abandoned. It's impossible to become abandoned.
Yes, I think that's right, and he sort of reveals through that the ocean and like surfing for him is a constant. It's like a metaphor for death and rebirth. It's just like a constant. Like everything is just about that. Like it says that getting crushed. He goes, getting crushed by tons of water is like dying. And every time you roll in and out of the sea and, you get crushed by the waves, but then when you come back up and take that first breath of air, that's like being born all over again. And I think that that's really important to him. I think like surfing is just like extremely spiritual to him, and being one with the ocean and like submitting to it and rolling in and out with it is like a metaphor for death and rebirth. Now, this is all very interesting stuff. The thing to keep in mind is that he is like screaming now during the entire time. We're like halfway into this rant and he's going, "Come back in the dream with me, boy."
Yeah, he's like white knuckling his son's forearm.
Sage is like disassociated, like looking down at something off camera, while Douglas is like grabbing his chest through his wetsuit and being like, "Come back in the dream with me, boy. Hear the whale, boy."
You know what's funny is, and I'm not saying not casting in judgments, but sure, it was amusing to me that the dream that they just like walk into is like Douglas is clearly like put on like 15 pounds.
Yeah,
in that scene. I just thought that was so funny. Like trying to like just all the like shitty ways that they tried to like make this seem like it was just like a cohesive film.
Right. There's just like no continuity.
That's just the electricity and squid ink fluctuating.
Yeah.
Right. He's rapidly decomposing.
I blow when I travel back in time through dreams.
There's just like so many fucking funny lines. Like, yeah, there's all the spiritual stuff, but then like he just is talking, and all of a sudden he just like throws up black liquid, and his son goes, "What's wrong?" And he says, "I'm running out of time." And that's when he reveals that God put him together out of squid and electricity so I could talk to you for a few hours.
We got to clip a lot of his like agonizing screams.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
So you
Absolutely.
can get an idea of.
I mean, there's like entire several minute chunks that we could put in here if we want.
Yeah. Maybe this comes before, maybe after, but yeah, another big Bible story that he gets into is Jonah and the whale.
Yes, he does. Jonah, it's convenient that it's about like the sea and it's about whales, which are a motif in the film, but it's also about Jonah not trusting and then finally trusting God's plan for him.
Yes.
And just taking all of these leaps of faith, which is like what Douglas is saying, that's what you should do to confront your fear, So Jonah, he spends a couple minutes focusing on the Bible story of Jonah, which is very interesting. I wanted to talk about, I think maybe one of the funniest and most memorable things in this whole 45-minute rant is when he goes, I wrote in my note, son asks him, the son asks him, like, but I don't understand, like, why are you helping me? Like, what are you getting out of this? And Douglas just goes, no,
Yeah.
no. And then the son is like, tell me. And I wrote in my notes, he starts squawking like a seagull. And then he goes, they didn't say I'd feel.
You never conquer your fear or something? Why do you care? What are you getting out of this?
No.
What is it?
No.
What is it? Tell me. What are you getting out of this?
It's okay.
This stuff I'm made out of for a few hours wasn't supposed to be able to feel. Damn them! They didn't say I'd feel! Only communicate to you that was the deal. I wasn't supposed to feel.
You okay?
That wasn't part of the deal.
He made a deal with God to be reborn for a few hours, like in a husk, like an avatar made out of hard jelly. But they didn't tell him that he would feel. He specifically asked that he wouldn't feel.
Yeah.
He's so overwhelmed with emotion seeing his son. And he didn't ask for this, It's a very tender and powerful moment.
Yeah. He can
So
hear
crazy.
the sound of children laughing and playing and running and laughing and playing and laughing and running.
So fucking good.
But it's
man.
because of this emotion that he feels. I guess he lets his son in on the deeper conspiracy.
Yes.
I think this is where maybe Douglas Burke had ideas for two different movies, and they decided that they would. Oh, these movies would definitely work together because our dadvatar gives Sage tells him, grab a pen and paper, write this down, and Sage literally reaches off screen and pulls up a giant pad of paper and pen that he's had with him on the beach.
By the beach, like he's sitting in the ocean.
Yeah. And he writes down, what's the guy's name?
Banks.
He writes down Banks.
It's a man. Banks.
It's a man, Banks. He gives him an address and he says, to write down code Echo Alpha Niner Alpha Omega Niner Alpha.
It's so fucking funny. The only other like rant line that I forgot to quote, I wanted to say specifically, is when maybe the "You're tearing me apart, Lisa" of this film is when he says, "I'm in an Iron Maiden of pain, boy."
Confront your fears. It will help me finish my wave. I need you. I need you. I am trapped. I'm a spirit just like Satan, bound to the earth, wandering, stuck. I need to lift off. I'm living in an Iron Maiden of pain, boy. You don't understand.
I gotta hear that on a ringtone.
No, for real. That's some real shit. That is
That's
some
me
hard
when
lyricism.
I have wake up after smoking one cigarette the day before.
I'm in an Iron Maiden of delight. But I have a note down about when he's saying, if you listen close, you can still hear the children, like when you're at the playground or whatever.
Yeah.
Or at a school. I forget what it was connected to, because I was just thinking like he's like giving Jonathan Sperry right now. He's Jonathan Sperry at the cemetery.
He's literally saying, "I am in agony," and you can you hear them?
I
But
believe he was describing the spirits of children before they come to Earth. Is that what he was
that
describing?
could be. I don't honestly remember that part. He does say, and I quote, I wrote this one down as well. "I'm so sorry how serious everything is, but on the other side is incredible laughter." And it's like the laughter of warrior angels.
Yeah.
So
the laughter of warrior angels.
but it's
God, I would kind of just want to pay like the $600 to take his class at USC
yes. Yeah.
just to find out.
As a non-student, just what's the word? Like audit his USC Physics 101 class.
I mean, these reviews are not. I don't know how much you're gonna learn at the class.
I learned everything I needed to know from watching Surfer Teen Confronts Fear.
It does sound like you'll get some good stories based on these ratings, though. You will get more takes.
I saw a review that was like, this guy was real, like his class was memorable. I really enjoyed it. And he just felt like a real person. And I will say there's probably a chance, because I remember being in college and like liking some professors that were a little more like eccentric, but like, there's so many college kids that are just is this going to be on the test kids, which to be fair, if you're taking like a 101 class, you do probably want to know, like, are you going to pass it or not? But Douglas Burke is not is this going to be on the test type professor.
Yeah.
He's in an Iron Maiden of pain,
I did find a minute-long clip of him lecturing at USC.
Oh my God. Is it posted by him or is it candid?
It's secretly filmed 14 years ago. From some rando on YouTube.
Should we watch it?
Ooh la la.
Should we talk about Banks in phase 2 of this film?
He's like crawling on the floor. He's wearing sunglasses.
What is he doing?
Everyone's laughing. I mean, it seems like everybody's having a good time.
This guy is goofy as hell.
I can't. There's no way he still teaches there.
I would.
He looks like Tommy Wiseau in this video.
I know.
Anyways.
Well, he gives Sage the information to find Banks. It takes him to like a strip mall in West Hollywood. That's also possibly the entrance to a top secret military facility.
Yeah, I believe they filmed this at the Lee Strasberg acting school.
Right.
Every person in this film, it was mentioned in their bios that they attended. I think he took a class, or maybe Sage took a class, and they just casted this film from that class.
Yeah, everyone they met.
Because no one in this movie was in another movie, and they all went to the Lee Strasberg School of Acting.
Yeah, definitely. That's actually a pretty good way to cast a film. Like, take an acting class and like make friends there, and just be like, we should all be in a movie together.
Yeah. If you want all of your actors to be really bad.
I do. It's funny you say that. I do.
Yeah, funny you ask.
And then it cuts immediately. The first thing we see of Banks is Banks, comforting that like elderly dementia patient. And he's just like, what is he saying? He's just like, that's a good heart. He's like putting the stethoscope
He's like trying
up her
not to
heart.
scare her. She never conquered her fear. She never had a good dad who returned in the form of electricity and ink to help her conquer her fears by going back to surfing.
No. So unfortunately, she ended up institutionalized. But, good thing she got Dr. Banks. Sage enters the building, and the receptionist, a young woman, says to him, "This is a military building, boy." Because every single character does the DIY film thing where each character speaks with the exact same voice. Doesn't matter if you're like a screaming like spirit on the side of the ocean, or you're just like the receptionist in a military hospital. They're all like, they call him boy. And to prove that it is indeed a military building, there's like this really fucking stupid scene where like they assemble various military guys together to hunt for bogeys. They like identify bogeys both in the air and on land, and they're like, "Sir, yes, sir." And they like start looking through trash cans.
One guy checks in the wheel well of a sedan.
They're
and then
brought
they come
in
back
like
and
they're
report.
henchmen, though.
Yeah. This scene is so pointless, just so they can do what does he say? Never again volunteer yourself, or whatever. They're trying to do the most like strained, like, oh, I hate being in the Navy. Dialogue. And it's so funny because they do a sweep of the area, and then they come back in and say there's no tangos, threats, bogeys, or enemies around.
Okay. Good to know.
Funny.
And Sage is just standing there.
Yes.
Just watching all this, and this very like Sage has this like remarkable facial expression. He kind of has like and I don't he's like, honestly like a good looking guy, but he kind of has this like old look to him, like Sage. Like he kind of looks like a child with the face of an old man.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of like staring unsmilingly at these like guys doing a fake military operation.
What happens when you're in the sun every day?
Maybe, honestly.
The guy in the blue fatigues, I believe, and just how like short he is with Sage is so funny. Everybody's so mean to him in the military place. Just classic, like you said, classic outsider filmmaking is everyone is mad at each other all the time. No one likes to be around each other. Everyone hates each other. And everyone has some snarky thing to say to each other.
Because doing that shows that you're like important, that you take your work seriously. It's like people think that it's a shortcut to like adding like gravitas to something. What is that word? Gravitas. And it's very funny. Everybody thinks that they're doing it, and then when you watch like so many of these movies together, you're like, why is everyone just being mean to each other?
It's like the aesthetic of real conflict and drama.
Yes. Yeah.
It
feels like what
the aesthetic.
People with social anxiety think like what everything is going to be like as soon as you leave your house.
Yeah.
So what do? You create your own little world on film where everyone is mad at each other all the time. It's also very funny how Sage walks in here and is just like, I'm supposed to see Burke. And she's like, what are you doing here? This is a secret military hospital. And his name is like Berkowitz. It's not Burke. That's his nickname.
Was it Banks?
Or Banks,
Bankowitz.
sorry. I'm saying Douglas Burke. Yeah, his name is Bankowitz. and she like just volunteers all this information after like just some rando walks into like a secret military hospital. They leave the front door unlocked.
Yeah, it'd be like if you walked into a place, you're like, is this where the CIA goes? And it's like, it's not the CIA. It's actually an FBI black site or whatever.
It's do you remember when like that hacker like shut down the casinos in Vegas or whatever, or locked people out of the casinos in Vegas? It was like last year, I think. But apparently they quote unquote hacked into the system by just sending they looked on LinkedIn, found the IT department head's name, created a Gmail account with his name, and just emailed someone else in the IT, or they found somebody who worked at the casino. They emailed like the IT person from some email with that person's name that they had created and just said, "Hey, I lost my password. Can you give me my like new credentials?" And they just sent it to him immediately, and he was able to like hack into their whole computer system.
That's amazing.
That's so crazy. That's so funny.
I wonder how many places you would just walk in. Like, how many banks could you just walk into and just say, like, "Hey, I need to check the computers in here. Can you let me into the back?"
Yeah.
Oh, probably a lot.
Yeah.
What was that one Inside Edition?
I was just going to say the food inspector on Inside Edition who was like, "I need to check the safes with the money for Rust."
There was this story on Inside Edition of a guy who would like go into fast food restaurants saying he was the food inspector or the health inspector, and that he would ask to check a couple things, then he would ask to check the safe for Rust, and they would let him in.
That's awesome.
And they finished the video by saying like, he said he chose to do this because he didn't want a real job and to contribute to society like the rest of us. It's such a funny, like, weird little editorializing at the end. For a guy who's like, you know, more power to you if you can just walk into a place and convince the people, like, "I need to check the safe for Rust."
Can I check the safe?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, after
exploiting
Sage,
exploitation. It's very good.
Yeah. After Sage, you know, talks his way into the facility again by just kind of like going in and being like, "Is this where Banks is?" And then everyone freaks out and does like military drills, and then the receptionist is mean to him, and then she's like, "But also this is where he is, so I'll take you up to him." You know, Banks. Oh, I guess Banks is intrigued because, you know, he says something that reminds him of Sage's father, who he knew, and a big reveal happens.
He shows Banks his dad's old military ID, which is so funny because you can tell the actor who played Banks just pulled out his own wallet and put his own driver's license on the table and was like, "Look at this. This is your dad's old military ID."
It never shows it on camera.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
The big reveal. How do you even describe this? They bring in a very special guest to surprise Sage, and it is his father in a wheelchair in a catatonic state that I can only describe as being even more ridiculous than Jerry Blank's dad in Strangers with Candy.
It really is like that joke, but like done completely sincerely.
It actually, like, goes twice as hard.
It kind of reminds me of oh my god, I'm blinking. What actor did the Elephant Man?
Oh, Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, it reminds me of Bradley Cooper's on stage Elephant Man, because he like looks like a totally normal guy, but he's like trying to frozen contort his face
like locked in some like horrifying scream, and one of his arms is like straight up in the air,
and Banks is like, "It's your dad. Tell him you love him. Tell him." And Sage is like, "I love you, Dad. It's me, Sage." And like his dad on the wheelchair is like freaking out and like having a seizure and like screaming. At one point, oh yeah, here's a quote from this scene. Banks says to I can't remember, you know, Douglas, his character's name, but Banks says to Douglas Burke, "That's your boy. His name is Sage, and he's beautiful." And he, I wrote in my notes, he starts squawking and holds his bare feet up to the camera, and they stop his seizure with like a plastic spoon.
Pulling the plastic spoon out of his pocket
like-
was so funny.
Like it's just such a weird reveal when like he's moving his body around and it reveals his like feet are bare and he's like holding them up to the camera. It's just like so weird.
He knocks that Coke over.
Yeah,
And then they get him
right
back
before
up,
they.
and it cuts back, and the Coke is back where it was.
Well, it's like spilled all over you can still see the wet spot behind them. But right before they wheel him out, Banks says to one of the military officers, he says, because Sage is having a difficult time taking all this in, he says, "Get this kid a Coke," which is so funny in itself when we saw it.
Line.
And then the next shot, it's like a close up on stage, and then it's on Sage. And then it like cuts to a wide, and there's just a like 2 liter of Coke with a giant straw sticking out of it next to him.
Funny.
And Douglas Burke, on his first like convulsion, immediately knocks the giant bottle of Coke over. It
course.
spills all over the floor. So funny.
That's really funny.
That was the kind of shit that just was like so magical. Seeing this in theaters.
I know.
Was like the get this kid a Coke, and then the little sneak, you can just see the tiniest sliver of a Coke bottle on the edge of the frame in the next scene. And it's just revealed to be a giant bottle of
huge
Coke.
bottle.
The huge, like colorful straw sticking out of it.
Yeah.
It's like a situation where, like, unless you do this perfectly, it is physical comedy. There's nothing else. There's nothing else it can be unless you do it exactly right.
I know.
It's even if you were trying to write like a joke in this scene, you would never come up with this fucking Coke bottle that just will not go away. It is not meant to be the focus of the scene at all. So funny.
It's good product placement.
Yeah. So Burke, he gives Sage a bunch of money.
Yeah.
To go surfing around the world.
Sage has this prediction in a dream, and this is the detail that it's revealed in the movie. He has a dream that there will be 2 storms that will cause like really good waves, I guess.
Yeah.
Down through different parts of the world, and this is like a very shocking revelation. I don't really understand.
So for some reason, it's very important for him to surf these waves.
Yes, this is like, this is to a surfer. This is the most exciting information ever.
Yeah,
there's going to be a storm, so the wind will blow really hard in Bali, for a week. Surfers will be like, really? And we're like, okay, and everyone else is like, okay, have fun.
Yeah, to all our surfing listeners, tell us if this is good or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave a comment if this is news you would be excited to hear. And the coda of the military scene where he fixes the new identity is also really fucking funny.
Yeah.
It's like a quick scene where Banks brings up another guy and he's like,
what did this guy look like? I always get this guy confused with the secret agent guy who trains Sage. Shortly
yeah, they're
after
2
that.
different guys.
There's 2 different guys.
It's so funny. But I love that they bring another guy there and he's just like, I love the guy explains the entire like back half of the plot in one sense. He's like, you mean after we erased the identity of Douglas Burke and made him go insane by doing that and put him in a mental hospital? You want me to erase another guy's identity and it's his own son?
Yeah. he goes into such detail too. He's like, Douglas Burke was a former special forces military assassin who we erased his identity and altered his mind so he went insane. And now you want me to erase the identity of his son and make sure that he has like health insurance for the rest of his life, and we're funding his trip around the world, and that he's totally covered by the military, so he never has to work again. And Banks is just like, yep. So bizarre. And they're doing this on like a green screen, like naval yard background where the same bird flies by like 7 times.
And to make it happen, he slides him like a small bottle of
it's a bottle of cognac, but it's clearly like a Jack Daniels from like a liquor store that costs like $3.75.
Yeah, some unspoken thing has happened with Banks and Douglas Burke that I think has created a strong bond between them during their time in the service. Was it revealed? So the next scene is Sage's like training montage, and he speaks to a guy who was like an agent with his dad.
Yeah.
This thing started to get a little muddled here.
They really do.
Am I making this up, or was there like some sort of mission that Douglas Burke was like, he was hurt during a mission and he's like trapped in that moment forever, which is why he's insane.
Right.
But it like saved a lot of people or something. Like basically like the government owes him a lot for his sacrifice.
Service, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. I honestly don't remember the specifics of the scene. I was kind of zoning out.
It was
at the
like
point.
This is basically
somehow.
where the movie is over and you're getting like deleted scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from all that, but even telling all that story, the guy the whole point is him saying something your dad taught me. There's always a time to kill. Like that's what he was leading up to. I was like, what? Okay.
Never comes into play.
No.
Literally the last 35 minutes of this movie are a surfing montage of primarily home videos of their like trip to Bali with like Sage's real life friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like them like holding a praying mantis.
Yeah,
and shit
covered
like
in
that.
bugs.
Like holding stick. It really is just like vacation footage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is
Justification footage.
clever use of that. Ooh, I love the song.
Go It Alone.
Yeah.
It sounds like a song by like Suicide.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
very,
really
like,
good.
I ripped it
very
and made an
surf
MP3 that's been on my phone for years.
Go it alone. Leave your fears behind.
Go it alone. Put your fears aside. Go it alone. No, I'll be right by your side. And ride away.
Yeah. It sounds like
Whatever.
every band, every buzz band in LA in like 2011.
Oh, you're so right.
Yeah.
I remember when I moved to LA in 2014 and like I was like, oh, I'll see some local shows. And they all sounded like Go It Alone.
Yeah. This was Burger Records. This was the height of Burger Records. Was every band sound like
Burger Records.
Burger Records.
Yeah, every band was like, jangly, surfy guitars with vocals that sounded like.
Yeah. And they were all like they just had like skeletons surfing and eating pizza on them.
Absolutely. What a great time.
All this so they could just sleep with 15-year-olds before they had to go back to their finance jobs.
They made me out of squid and electricity so I could sleep with the 15-year-olds. But they didn't tell me I would feel. I'm sorry. And then wraps up with an end credits scene.
Yep.
Where it starts by superimposing stock footage of military personnel respectfully like wrapping up an American flag superimposed on the surfing. Which is like really remarkable. Like to end this movie with like America. I mean, I love Americana imagery as much as the next person. And like, I guess there is the whole plot about, Douglas Burke theoretically, like, not dying, but, throwing away his life essentially, like to protect America. But that's still not, I don't leave Surfer thinking like, yes, the American spirit.
Yeah. There was a lot of military stuff sort of wedged in there for no particular reason.
His parents were in the Navy. I forgot this. You said that Douglas Burke's real life parents were in the Navy, most
I think
likely.
so. I just remember him saying he spent like a lot of time in his childhood, like basically like growing up in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like weird how he's just dropping all this information on us.
Yeah, right.
I wonder if there's some like implied like, and I'm only thinking about this because of the ratings, his college professor ratings, but a big complaint is that if you don't have prior knowledge of certain things, the class doesn't make very much sense. And so I kind of think that is the case here too, where we're assuming something in regards to the U.S. military, and I'm genuinely not sure what that is. Like, kind of a more obvious one would be like 2 weeks ago when we covered spiritual heritage of the U.S. Capitol. There's a very obvious assumption that the forefathers are all demigods who are pure of heart and could do no wrong and are geniuses.
Right.
And like a lot of people talk like that, so that wasn't lost on us, and they were like, that's just how they were talking about him too.
Right.
So I'm wondering if there's something along those lines here with the U.S. military where it's like, I know you think that because this is what I always have thought.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's just some sort of assumption like that, but what a fucking movie.
It's so good.
Truly nothing like it.
Nothing like it. I will reveal I did a little searching, and someone has uploaded this film to archive.org in full. So we don't have to reveal the strange source that through which we are able to watch the film. I was kind of worried that no one, there was a part of me that was like, do we like risk it to give it to our listeners? But we don't actually have to do that. Someone's taken the liberty of archiving it. Hope it's with Mr. Burke's permission, but like, I would say it doesn't have many views. It only has a couple hundred views. It went up like a year ago. So maybe people out there should watch this film, or hey, I mean, go to the fucking Luxembourg Film Festival and like watch this on 35 millimeter if you can afford it. I mean, if I had like fuck you money, I would fly to Luxembourg to see Surfer. Like, why not? But this is like a deeply, we're an outsider film podcast disguised as a Christian film podcast, or however you want to call us. But this film is perfect because like it's an outsider film that we are like genuinely really passionate about, and we think our listeners would just like really love to watch. And it also like covers very explicitly spiritual, religious themes, not from a conservative Christian element, but certainly from a Christian element. There's like lots of Christian stuff at play, but it's not evangelical. In fact, it's very like new age, or very like, frankly, I don't even know if it's any. I think Douglas, as you said earlier, maybe made it completely up, but it has a sort of internal logic.
He marches to the beat of his own drum.
That's for damn
But
sure.
I mean, I was able to understand this film watching it. There's a lot of, empty spaces, I feel like. But the plot and sort of like the idea of him, the universe within which he is able to come back and speak to his son. And I feel like he explains enough that you can sort of fill in the gaps on your own.
Yeah.
And sort of understand this sort of how this spiritual pseudo Christianity, Eastern philosophy works.
Or you just watch it a few more times.
Yeah. Felt like an anime to me this time.
Yeah. I think this was like the fourth or fifth time I watched it.
This was my fourth time.
I think it was mine as well. I'm pretty sure we watched it all the times together, because I watched it at your place once, Julian.
Yeah.
and we went to the Gardena screening, and we went to the Lamley screening.
Yep.
And this is how we measure our lives. Like, this is the shit that we do, I guess. Like,
we could be doing something. We could be building bombs for the government right now.
Yeah, you're right.
Instead, we're wasting our time watching outsider art.
Well, something to consider. Or if you're Douglas Burke, you can do both.
Get you a surfer who can do both. Get you a physics professor who can do both.
We should show this to Tom.
Yeah.
Tom would like this movie.
I want him to teach me how to surf. He taught me one day, and it's hard. It's really hard if you aren't near the ocean, because you can't just go there every day,
right,
and do it. But I guess I could if I wanted to. I think the important thing is the biggest thing keeping me from learning how to surf is the fact that I don't really want to.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that'll do it.
Also, my fear that I need to conquer or confront, I should say.
Come back with me into the dream, boy.
Conquer your fears in the ocean.
Podcaster confronts laziness.
Yeah.
Surfer.
Shall we confront rating this movie?
Yeah.
Many of his students rated him. We can rate him too.
RateMyOutsiderFilmmaker.com. What would we give the official Boys Bible Study rating of Douglas Burke's Surfer, Teen Confronts Fear?
I'm going to give this an 83 out of 83% that I will watch this movie again, since 17% of his students say they will take his class again. I will fill in the rest.
Yes. One can only assume that the other portion of that is just the people who are just going to watch the movie.
Yes.
They're
This
not gonna
feels
take the
like
class.
a movie that I will be watching periodically for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I will be in the shambles of a shack in the desert after the bombs have fallen, using up the last bit of the generator in my encampment with my other raiders, who I'm sort of the jester of, to watch this film. They'll wake up with no power the next day, and I will be drawn and quartered by a motorcycle gang for also drinking all the water and eating all the food while everybody else was asleep. And I was watching Surfer. And as long as Douglas Burke's personal Vimeo account, where this is being hosted with the same password that it's had for the past 6 years, is still
That's how
up,
we're watching it.
we will continue watching this.
Or archive.org, whichever one goes first. Vimeo or archive.org.
Beautiful. Yeah, it'll be there. I think about that too. In the dystopian future where I'm still like figuring out how to watch movies.
Yeah.
You're going to be doing
Say.
shadow puppets on the wall. Reenacting Blood Boys or whatever.
Blood Brothers.
Blood Brothers. And
You know what's funny?
What?
You saying Blood Boys, though, I was just looking at my VHS copy of Carl Sukenik's Blood Boy earlier today, too. So it's like Blood Boy or Blood Brothers?
Yeah.
This movie's great. It's great every time. I am gonna have to give it 5 out of 5 exotic bugs crawling on me while I'm on my government all expenses paid trip around the world, finding the greatest waves for the rest of my life.
Wow. One man's sacrificed so one boy could ride the waves of the world. I think that's beautiful. I myself would have to give this film 45 out of 45 minutes of one long opening scene, because the intro of this film is the most exciting part. And it's also so avant-garde and so long and so insane. And everyone should watch it. This is a huge Boys Bible Study recommendation. Take an hour and a half and watch this one with your friends. You will really enjoy it. We love it. Shout outs to Douglas Burke. Shout outs to Sage Burke. Julian Burke, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
And like,
God, a boy can dream, can't he?
And also, if you really enjoyed this episode, you want to hear more, we recommend you go to boysbiblestudy.com to hear the rest. And if you really like what we do, want to support, unlock bonus content, get Boys Bible Study episodes every single week, please go to patreon.com/Boys Bible Study. Shout outs to our patron saints surfing the biggest waves at the $20 tier. We shout them out on every episode. Nicole, Marissa, Jeff, Rhett, and Mark. Also, our outro music is Go It Alone by, just kidding. It's actually Oh My God by Mary. From all of us here at Boys Bible Study, myself, Ash, my co-hosts, Scott and Julian, we would like to say peace be with you.
And also with you, boy.
I actually didn't see that coming. That's pretty good.
He reminds me of the guy in Phantasm, the bad guy.
Oh,
Boy.
yeah, that's a good call. That's a good call.
Boy.
This movie's basically Phantasm meets Moana.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when you enter me. Every day you take me high with your love, and I'd rather than be I need you to wash away my sin. Open back to let you give me a sin, and I give you all I got. One stop, oh my God, yours is a God. Dear God.
Going